Hello. Happy Friday. How are you all? I'm hoping that Annabelle Pinto will join us, but she got confused with the timing of the live and she thought it was 5 p.m. her time. So I'm going to start, and if she can join us at some point, she will. But if not, then I'm ready to do this alone. I wanted to start by telling you all what Genesis Project is. And so we'll start with that, and then we'll see if Annabelle can join us. If not, then I'll go ahead and do the live on my own. It's always more fun when you have two people, but hey, why not? So Genesis Project was born out of two survivors of the same integrated psychopath, and we decided to turn our very, very bad experience, in my case of 10 years and in her case of a few months, into something that, hi Yinglai, how are you? Into something that would be positive for the world. And so we decided to share our story. We decided to share what we had been researching or have been researching for the past 4 years, and what we have learned about it with other people, so that it may become less of a scourge on other people, so that victims can determine when they are falling victims to a predator, like integrated psychopaths are, like malignant narcissists are, hiding light. And so that's why we decided to do this. We also have a YouTube channel that you guys can subscribe to, and it's free. And we also have a WhatsApp support group, and it's also free. And we have them for all genders, and we are starting our very first English language support group in WhatsApp. So we found, and it is one of the things that I'm going to talk about, is that it really helps when you are discussing these issues with people who are like you, who have gone through this experience, because not everybody is going to understand you. If your family, unless your members of the family have gone through an experience like this, it's very, very hard to make them understand what you just went through. It's very hard to find people who are not going to judge you for what you went through. And so, we want to make sure that you're talking to people who have lived what you have lived, what you have experienced, so that you can be understood. And our hope, we have people in almost all continents. And so at any point in time when you need support, when you need to talk to somebody, when you feel like you need to call them back and talk to the person who was your predator, you will instead be able to call somebody in our support group. Hi, Iram325, thank you for joining us. Let me know if you guys can hear me and understand me well, if I'm not freezing up. I'm not seeing a lot of signal in this place. Maybe I am. I just don't know what I'm seeing. So if you can hear me, just go like that and let me know. Anyway, so today we're going to talk about, I thought it would be interesting to talk about what things helped me and helped Annabelle, but like I said, she had issues with the timing of the live. What things helped us to get out of the very abusive and very toxic relationship that we were in. So just to give you an idea, I was married to this person for almost 10 years. I certainly was with him for over 10 years, but married only 9 in some months. It was really probably the toughest thing that I've done was to leave the relationship. Victims usually leave this relationship on average seven times before they leave, definitely. And so it's really not an easy thing to do, because you are still very much in love and very much addicted to the person. We have talked about it in our Spanish lives about how this is an addiction more than it is love. And they create this addiction through love bombing you at the beginning of the relationship, through soulmate, a process of soulmateization. You think that you have found your soulmate because of everything that they tell you and everything, how they make you feel. So it's really tough to leave. You really at some point feel like if you leave them, you're going to die. And I mean, there's no other way to put it. It's really, really tough to leave. And in the majority of times, they will leave you when they discard you, and you're going to be absolutely crushed and devastated. if you deign to leave them, it is likely they're going to come back to finish you, because they always have to be the ones who finish the relationship with you and not the other way around. When Gloria finished her relationship with the shared psychopath that we had, he told her, you're breaking up with me. You are breaking up with me. Like, he could not believe that somebody was actually breaking up with him. So it's a very interesting process to do, and if you don't have support, it's almost impossible to do it. So what things helped me to realize that first of all, I was very trauma informed because I am a family law attorney. And so I had at least, a 40-hour training on domestic violence because I used to be a court attorney. And so I had all that training. And of course I had, 10 years of experience dealing with victims of domestic violence. And I was absolutely sure that I was in a very abusive relationship. But what I didn't know is what was affecting him. I didn't know what he had. I didn't know what he was. I knew nothing. Hi, Isabel. I had no idea that I had married somebody that had a personality disorder, and that's what was affecting me, right? And of course, through the course of 10 years, I had been told that I was crazy, that I was the one that was at fault, that I was impossible, that nobody could live with me, that nobody loved me, that my kids didn't love me. Well, okay, that turned out not to be true. But I was told all those things. And so at some point you internalize them and you start feeling like, yes, you are the crazy one. Indeed, you are the crazy one. And so it's really, really tough to leave a relationship. Never mind, hola, Pati, ¿cómo estás? Never mind that you are also many times dependent on them, or people who have come to this country and have married a psychopath or a malignant narcissist, and then they have children with that person and they have no means of production. So it's really hard to leave a relationship like this, and for more than one reason, okay? But one of the things that helped me was there was a time, and I believe it was in 2015, that I had gone to Florida. We were going to go on a cruise, and we had a massive blowout fight, and in which I said, he said, I'm not going on the cruise with you, and I said, okay, fine. And he said, leave me at the first place that you can leave me. So I remember pulling over like 6 lanes in Florida's I-75 or whatever that highway is. And I left him at the very first hotel that I could find, and then I went and took the rest of my vacation time. I canceled my cruise and I went to the Florida Keys and had some time to really think about it. I was really devastated. There were days that I was okay. There were days that I thought I'm the queen of the world and I'm free and I can do all this stuff. I'm finally free of him, and then there were days that I was waking up that I didn't know if I was going to survive the day. I mean, it's really that bad. So in any event, when that happened, there was a day in particular that I had already come back to Miami. I was leaving the next day, and I had asked him, I had emailed him, and I said, we're getting divorced, and so tell me what you want to get out of the house, and it's yours. And he said, we'll talk when we get there. And I said, can you please do me a favor and get other seats at the airline so that you don't go sitting next to me? And he did that. And it was probably the hardest, 5 hours of my life was being in that airplane with him in the airplane, but sitting separately, because what I wanted so desperately was to have him hug me again and hold me again in his arms and kiss me. And that was not going to happen because I was also absolutely sure that I could not have him in my life. But anyway, at that point, when I went back to Miami from the Florida Keys, I spoke with a friend, and I said, hey, I'm in Miami, I'd love to see you. And she said, sure, pick me up and we'll go to dinner tonight. So we did. And she, looked at me. She hadn't seen me in a long, long while. And she said, tell me what's going on. And so she, I told her what was going on. And she at some point said, okay, stop. Let me tell you about your relationship. And she told me about my relationship. And she told me about him. And she told me about me. And this is not a friend that was like particularly close to me at any one time. Um, and yet it felt like she knew what was going on inside my house, right? And I was like, do you have cameras in my home? And she said, no, but I lived with an addict and I lived with an alcoholic all my life. First my dad, and then the father of my child. And so you are living with an alcoholic. He is a functional alcoholic, but he is an alcoholic, and he's a dry alcoholic, and so that's even worse. And so she told me about Alcoholic Anonymous, and she told me about an organization called Al-Anon, and she said, you need to start going to that. Promise me that you're going to go to at least 30 sessions of Al-Anon, because you're going to need it. And she said, I don't promise to save your marriage, but I promise to save you. And on that day I said, well, and right now that saving me is it's probably the best thing that you can do for me. So I will go to these meetings. And so I wrote to him that very night and I said, I don't want to get divorced anymore. We'll talk when we get there. And I am going to join. I told him that it was going to be a spiritual group. And so I started going to Al-Anon meetings, and I think that going to the rooms of Al-Anon was probably the very first step that I took in the right direction. Why is it a step in the right direction when it's a group, arguably, for support of people who have alcoholics or who have people who are drug addicted in their family? Well, because as a wife or a child or a mother or a sister or whatever of an alcoholic, you are a codependent on the alcoholic. Your life starts to run around the person who has the addiction, whether it be drugs or alcohol or whatever. So you do have a codependent relationship. Hi, Annabelle, I will ask you, yes, hold on, your request, go live. So let's have Annabelle join us here. Okay. I approved your request to join me, but okay, there you go.
Hi.
Oh, there you go.
Thank you. I'm like, ooh, what do I look like here?
You look like you're having fun. That's what you look like.
I am. I'm in Florida at some friend's house, and she has a beautiful house. I'll show you a little preview.
Wow. Oh my God.
It's very.
Well, I wish I were there. I
Thank
can't take a
you.
picture of my surroundings, but okay. But
Yeah.
I'm going to a concert tonight. I'm going to see Jorge Glem, so I'm really happy about that too.
Oh, how wonderful.
Yeah,
That's fun. You look great,
So,
Natalie.
thank you. You too. You too. Very festive. So, Annabelle, I was telling them about, that we're going to tell them about the things that helped us to get out of the relationship. And I said that there were many steps that I consider like the baby steps, the things that started to fall into my life that allowed me to leave the relationship. And I was telling them that one of them was an argument that I had with him that led to talking to a friend, that led to me starting to go to Al-Anon, which is the organization that helps sisters and families and relatives of people who have an addiction. And I was saying, well, what does that have to do with living with a psychopath or with living with a narcissist? And I was telling them it helps because when you are living with a person like this, whether it be an addict or a narcissist or a person with antisocial personality disorder with psychopathic traits, what you do is that you become a codependent of that person, right? So your whole life spins around this hurricane force 5, right? And so you cannot make any plans to go anywhere without first knowing if they're going to be joining you or not, or what are they doing, or you cannot make any plans on your own. You have to control everybody else because you cannot control him, right, or her. And so you start controlling everybody else around you. And so I was very careful when my kids came to visit me that they, don't put your feet there, don't open this, don't go there. And my kids always felt like, Mom, this doesn't really feel like our house. It feels like a jail. It feels like a place that we're so constrained by everything they're telling, because I knew that there was hell to be paid if they did something wrong, right? And so, and I've spoken to wives of alcoholic people, and they have told me the same thing. Oh yeah, I know that I have to have the kids in bed by 5 because otherwise, there's going to be a fight, and he's going to, they're going to witness it, and da 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 da. And so you start controlling everything else around it. So when you go to Al-Anon, you learn, number one, you learn the serenity prayer. Number two, you learn that you cannot control the alcoholic. The only thing that you may control is yourself, and that at times, right? Um, and you also do the 12 steps. So you do them. You get a sponsor, and what they cure, they seldom talk about the alcoholic. They mostly talk about how you need to get rid of your codependency on the person. So for me, I think that the first step in my recovery and my being able to leave him was the fact that I went to over 30 Al-Anon meetings, and I cured my codependency. So I was able to make meetings. I learned about making Plan B. So like I would buy tickets to go see whatever Journey, okay, with him, and I would call you and say, hey, Annabelle, I bought those tickets to go with him. But if there's a fight like 5 minutes before we go, are you willing to be on call and go with me? So I cannot promise to take you, but I can promise to maybe take you. And you're like, oh yeah, I'm not doing anything that day. You can call me at 5 p.m. and I'll go. And I said, okay, fine. And so sometimes he went to the concert, and sometimes he would, like always, they try to ruin your best days. And so that's when I would say, oh, okay, well, goodbye. And he started noticing, and he started saying, so you're going? Yeah, I'm going. Of course I'm going. I'm going to a concert. Why wouldn't I go? You're going without me? Absolutely. You said that you didn't want to go. So yes, I am going. Bye. And then on my way, I would call you and say,
Let me just pause here, because you learn that courage to be able to stand on your own through the 12 steps, like you said, the serenity prayer, Al-Anon, who build you up again, correct?
exactly. Yeah. And once you start having a life of your own, you start realizing that, okay, maybe I can survive without him. The other thing that helped me, Annabelle, was when I met by serendipity. One of those things that I don't call coincidences, but I call them God incidences.
Yeah.
Because it seems like God sent these things to me. And I met an ex-girlfriend of his. Hola, Marianita. How are you? And I met this. Hi, Benny.
He's also here.
Hi, Benny.
I cannot take this ball away. I've tried, guys, for 30 minutes.
Oh my God, that is what he's sounding. Okay.
That's the sound. It's not a bird in the background.
Yeah.
I just can't take it away. I'm sorry.
It's okay. So I met this person that had been in his life for about 3 years. I mean, she was an ex-girlfriend, and she was working at one of the events that he did, because he found out that she was in the Bay Area, started to call her again. She was married, okay? But once his girl, always his girl, right? And that's what she told me at some point. So when he left, she said, be careful, he will always come back. You can be married to two different guys, and 20 years later, and he will still call you, because they always return, they always come back. And so, but at this particular event, it was the first time that she saw me in person. We had talked on the phone briefly about, if you need anything in the Bay Area, I know where to find things, and whatever I can help you, don't hesitate to call me. And at the event, she pulled me by my arm, and she said, come over here. So she took me away from his line of vision. And she said, I want you to know that you're a saint. And I said, what do you mean? I'm not a saint. What are you talking about? And she said, any woman who has been with so-and-so for 7 years has to be a saint. And I want you to know that you're not alone and you're not crazy. Okay? And that is why our motto in the Genesis Project is, you're not alone and you're not crazy. Because to me, those were the words that probably saved my soul first, because I always thought that I was the only person that this happened to, and that I was crazy, because that's what he kept telling me. And he kept telling me, I've never fought with anyone else and I've never argued with anyone else the way that I do with you. I've had
And you
a
believed him.
different
And you
relationships.
believed
What?
him, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so when she told me, we all know what you're going through with him because we went through with him too. And I was like, wow. So it's not me. So it's, this has happened before and I'm not crazy and I'm not alone. So that reassurance, along with the reestablishing my independence from him, my life, breaking that codependency, those were two gigantic steps along the way to recovery. The other thing that actually helped me a lot was to read a book called The Seat of the Soul. I think I've spoken to you about this book by Gary Zukav.
Yeah.
And it started because, when you're married to somebody like that, you forever start asking the universe, can you send me a sign? Can you tell me what to do? Can you send me some guidance? Can you, and the universe.
I had the runes, the Oracle by Bloom.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It really did save my life. It's amazing how right on that Oracle was. But again, you just really need a rope. You really want somebody to
You want
help you.
somebody to tell you what to do, and
Or to
then I read.
reaffirm you're not crazy.
Yeah. And so when I read the book, it basically tells you we're not going to make decisions for you. The universe does not make decisions for you. You make the decisions, and then the universe helps you to create that life, that you are envisioning. Yes, Marinita, read it. It's really, you can actually listen to it on, what is it, Audible.
Yep.
So I got it as an Audible book because to me, listening on the go, when I drive, whatever, it's always better. So it is on Audible. You can read it. You can hear it on Audible. And it helped me because I could stop it. The book is not, yes, The Seat of the Soul. The book is not like an easy read, and I'm telling you this as an attorney, you can imagine that what I read is never easy. But so if you can go back and say, wait, what, then it helps you, right? So when I realized that was going on, that the universe would not make, yes, you can get it on Amazon, and Amazon actually is Audible. And so if you want to listen to it on Amazon, then that's for you. It's an audiobook, yes. But it's also a book. So if you actually want the hardcover, they do have it. Oprah Winfrey is a friend of Gary Zukav, and she actually had him on her show. So
those are my two books, Natalie. So I think if we give him those three sources, or if you have another one, but those were my two.
That'll help.
My
so
two.
Women Who Run with Wolves and Emotional Blackmail, both by Susan Forward.
But Emotional Blackmail, there's a few out there. Susan Forward. And it's in 20 languages.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you can get it anywhere in anything. So anyway, so I think that when I heard that phrase, Annabelle, it really resonated with me. And I said, wow, the universe has been sending me. The universe could not have sent me any more signals. I mean, if it put up a billboard and said, leave him now, I would have said, oh, that must be for somebody else. And I would have driven on, right? So the universe sends you the signals, but you're not listening, right? I mean, you can see it, but you just don't want to hear it. And so at some point you have to realize that it's not going to make the decision for you. The decision is yours, but it will help you once you make the decision, okay? And so what I did that day, and
I just want to pause real quick because I saw something this week, and I might have posted it in Genesis or in my Facebook, and it's this beautiful figure in purple holding a woman's hand, like on the face, and it says, it was the universe speaking to her. It says, I'm going to help you, but you need to control your mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I've got it all.
I have your back. Exactly. I've got you.
Oh, that's another beautiful book. The universe has your back.
Oh,
that's
really?
A beautiful book. Yeah.
Ah, well, there you go. So anyway, so I read that, and I remember distinctly that I was planting something in my very small garden with my dog, and I remember, Annabelle, actually lifting up my face to the heavens and saying, all right, universe, if that is the case, then I need to give you a clear signal. I no longer want to be in a relationship like that, ever. I need this man out of my life. That is my signal to you. That's what I want. That's what I want you to manifest. And I said it out loud for the first time, right? And that was like, boom, it really made it real for me. And then immediately what I did was that I called Kaiser, my health insurance, and I requested to have therapy with a therapist. Of course, I didn't know at the time the type of therapy that I needed, right, which is an EMDR based therapy, but at least I requested the help of a therapist. And I remember when I walked in, the first thing she said was, "How can I help you?" And I said, "I don't think I need any other help except help maintaining my resolve to leave my husband. So what can you do to help me, stay with him because he needs to leave in June, after he's going to have some surgery. But I need from here, which was April, until June, I need to be strong enough to maintain my resolve, which I've never been able to do. So I'm just coming for strength. If you can get me to where I need to be in June to be able to say, okay, goodbye, leave now, then I'm good. That's all you can do for me." And she said, "I can do that for you." So I started going to a therapist every month, and that was the only thing that we worked on is, tell me about something bad he did to you. So she reminded me of the bad times because you are in this addiction, right? In this addiction, in addictive relationship where you only remember the good, the highs. And so her job was to remind me of the lows, right? So that I would say, "Oh yeah, and that's why I'm leaving him. Oh yeah, and that's why I need to do this." So anyway, those were things that helped me. And then of course, once I left him and what happened, and it's all in our story. You can look it up on YouTube. We have our full story of how Gloria and I met and what happened. And I think that what was instrumental in helping me to heal, besides, different things that I did, was the fact that I had somebody like Gloria, because I had her, and of course I had you. I mean, I had a bunch of women who really helped me when I was failing, or when I simply needed somebody to talk to because they filled your life, they so overwhelm you that then you feel like your life is totally empty when they're not there,
Yeah.
and you need to be constantly listening to noise, constantly listening to YouTube videos, constantly listening, to what did just happen to me in my last 10 years, so that you can survive day to day. And it's valid. It's valid. Call your friends, but don't call any friend. Call people who have gone through it. And I think that was the most valuable thing that I had, was to be able to call Gloria at 3 in the morning and say, "If I don't talk to you, I'm going to call him." So it's exactly like the addict who needs to call the sponsor and say, "If I don't talk to you, I'm going to go out and drink," or "If I don't talk to you, I'm going to go do a line of cocaine." It's exactly the same thing. And so sometimes it would be her calling me at 4 in the morning, or sometimes it would be me calling her at 4 in the morning. And we were always there for each other at whatever time, day or night. It was a pandemic. We spoke probably 8 hours a day. I'm not kidding you. And so that support group that's why we created a support group in WhatsApp, because we knew that there was going to be a need for that. That women need to hear and men need to hear from other people who have gone through it. That yes, I'm here for you. Yes, it does happen. No, it's normal. Don't feel like you're going crazy. It's perfectly normal to feel like that. Because when you talk to other people who haven't gone through this type of relationship, they have no idea. They have no idea. And they will tell you, "Oh my God, there you are talking about this person again. You should get over it. It's been 6 months," right? And
Yeah.
they have no idea that, no, you should not get over it yet. It might be a while. It's not going to be 6 months, you know. So anyway, but those are the things that help me. But now tell me a little bit, you were also in an abusive relationship, were you not?
Yes, it wasn't, I think you probably started the meeting, maybe explaining a little bit the difference between the profiles that you support. Mine was not so much a sociopath. There were small traces of it now that I understand more about it. So when you're in it, you know what's happening. There's no labels. You're
Yeah.
just trying to really survive, understand, make it work. We come from a philosophy. My parents have been married, and my dad passed away 7 years ago, but they had been married. They knew each other since they were 9, and they had been married 60 years. So I did believe in the institution of marriage, did believe, sorry to say that, but I'm very honest. And so I had wonderful role models. So I was going to make everything in my power, um, this marriage work. I'm also the personality of a problem solver. So, and I'm an optimist. So I fought really hard, but mine was more of a very deep narcissistic disorder. And the same characteristics of having to control, having to, a lot of gaslighting, same as sociopath, same as the narcissist. When you don't have those traits, mental health, because it is mental health, you don't understand. You don't understand what's happening or how could somebody even think like that. So yes, I was in a similar relationship. I didn't last as long as you did. We were together 8 years. 3, we were dating, serious dating, and then 5 married. The last year was extremely difficult for me. I didn't have an Al-Anon, but the marriage was so broken. I was going through in vitro sessions, 5 of them. All miscarriages. Obviously, it wasn't meant to be. The universe was sending
And now you
back.
know what a blessing that was.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I remember we had bought a second property. We had an architect, and I remember stopping everything. And he was livid because he had no control of it. And I remember saying, we're building in a structure, in a foundation that is completely broken. It's twisted. This building is like this, and we want to put yet one more floor in a building that is collapsing. So I said, until we can fix this marriage, and obviously the answers are not in me and they're not in you, we can't continue to act like nothing's happening, another in vitro, another house, another this, another location. And I knew he wasn't happy and I wasn't happy. Of course, he would deny that. Oh no, I'm super happy, but you have a problem. I always had the problem.
Of course, it's always you. Never them. Yeah.
So the proof to me where I got stronger was the last year I read Emotional Blackmail by Susan Forward. I did consult the Oracle. I observed a lot. I have been meditating since the year 2000, and this is 2005. So that practice helps you really pay attention, pause. I became very, I'm a super extrovert. I became very introverted, as opposed to you that you talk to a lot of people about it, and I didn't. We were the perfect couple in the outside world. We did everything together. We surfed together. We mountain bike together. We ski together. We were like brother and sister, perfect couple. Inside those 4 walls, only I knew the hell that was happening, right? So I didn't really have the support from a friendship point of view. He was a very private person. See, I know you're a former, and we could all tell. And we knew you were smart. We knew you were beautiful. And we could all tell something is completely wrong with this situation, but she has to see it. Yeah. In my case, it was different. Nobody could really tell. It was all inside the house. So I lived it really by myself. The only person that knew was my father the day I decided to tell him, I'm leaving, Javier, and we need to go to a lawyer, because I had a lot more to lose than he did. I don't mind his name, but people know I was only married once, so it's him. Yeah. So anyways, so my situation was different. What made me strong, my parents have always been uplifters. I mean, I can do anything. I lived in France when I was 15, total trust. So I could do anything. And then in this marriage, I began to just shrink. My only satisfaction was my career. And even then, I had to leave my job for another company because we were at the same company, and people would say to him, oh, you're Annabelle's husband. Oh my God, don't say that. Don't say that.
Oh, yeah. Hell to be paid.
Hell to be paid. And I was 3 levels higher. So anyways, it was always hell to be paid. So I left. You can have that company. I'm going to another one. Always accommodating, like you were saying, with your children, with it. always accommodating. He was so unhappy. Well, why don't you go get another degree? We can make it with my salary. There was no way to make him happy, but I thought I could. I thought
Yeah, it's never enough. It is never enough.
it's never enough. It's never enough, and you're never enough. The
And
person
you're
that
never
married, they love, and then they become their worst enemies. So when I had that conversation with him and said, we really need a therapist, I knew I couldn't choose a therapist because then the therapist is on your side, of course.
because you chose. That's why you chose
You
her.
chose the therapist. So I told him, I said, you need to choose a therapist. He was on my insurance. So I said, here's the book. You pick them. You interview them. 3 months later, nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
we're continuing to deteriorate as people, as a couple, as a marriage, as you name it. I became
Yeah.
very sick. You become very, very sick, and I don't really know why, but you become very weak. I started to gain weight between the in vitros and the situation at home, which was a very sad situation.
Wow.
You just become sick. This isn't a healthy environment. So you know something is off. And so after a lot of pressure, you got to find a therapist. He didn't. I did. And I said, why don't you go interview this person and let me know if you like her? He interviewed the lady. She was a woman from Colombia, brilliant woman. And I interviewed her. And we both decided she was the one. We had each a single session and then a couple section that lasted 3 hours. And then we were each supposed to, yeah, and that was very revealing. She could tell right away what was going on there.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
then we were supposed to each just continue our, therapy on our own. And
Uh-huh.
then every now and then we would come together as a couple. Well, after 32 to 1, I realized this is not very important to him when I've gone 32 sessions of therapy and he's gone to 1. So that was another telling moment, right? And then I discovered other things that were financially disturbing. Just things that you just realize, wow, this isn't love. This isn't what I've learned. This isn't what I want. This isn't healthy. And very, very long sleepless nights crying while the other person is lying next to you snoring like
Yeah,
nothing's ever happened.
exactly. No problem. Yeah,
No
yeah. Exactly.
problem. And you're just shrinking and your heart is shrinking and your soul is just not there anymore. You're not the person that you've always been. You can't even recognize yourself.
That's why Iñaki Piñuel calls it the rape of the soul.
Ah, right on.
Yeah.
So what helped me was the therapist and then keeping a diary because as you said earlier, we always remember the good times. I think if there's mothers in
Right.
this, I'm not a mother, but I would tell you, after giving birth to the first, are you crazy? You went through the second and the third and the fourth? Because you only remember the good times and the sweet
Yeah.
babies. Right?
Exactly.
So I will tell you that's what happens with most of us. I would say 99% of humans is we really try to remember the good times. I was actually even hesitating when we were going to do this because I'm like, gosh, this happened 21 years ago. I've done a great job. It took me a long time, and I'll tell you how long, to overcome this. I don't even think I can remember. But I do remember keeping a diary, not of the good times, but of the bad times.
What about
Because every
that?
time I felt weak or that, oh my God, I can't leave this marriage. I left my marriage madly in love with my former husband, madly in love with him.
That's a problem.
And so I had to have that diary to remind me of all the reasons why I needed to go. Because either I ended up in a mental hospital
Uh-huh. What, killing yourself?
or, yes,
Unfortunately.
in a mental hospital through depression, or my life would be over. And I remember my therapist saying to me, I've treated a lot of women like you and men. The advantage you have is that if you make a decision now, it took you 5 years. I've seen people that it takes them 20 years.
Oh.
And they said, wow, why didn't I do this 15 years ago? You end up in the same place. You just take longer.
Exactly. Yeah, but only worse.
It
Exactly.
just wears you out more. You become even sicker. You lose your self-esteem. You lose credibility. You really doubt yourself. I never had doubted myself. I got married. Three years into the marriage were okay because we both were high in our careers, traveling, still having a lot of fun. The honeymoon was still there. Fourth year rocky, fifth year really tough. And I really literally packed my bags and had my secretary pick me up instead of him take me to the airport, left to California and never came back.
Wow.
Left
Wow.
everything.
And
Left my house.
that's when I met you? That was in 2009 when I met you?
No, I did that in 2005.
Oh, okay. So no, okay. So then you went back to Tampa, then you came back.
Then I went back to Tampa like 4 months
Uh-huh.
later, lived with a friend, and then the company really wanted me in California, which I had no reason to say no. And they relocated me to California.
Oh,
And
okay.
then I worked out of California and came back to Tampa in 17.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, now it makes more sense because when you said I left California, I was like, the woman I met was not just coming out of that kind of relationship.
No, you met
I
me
met a
like
whole
4
woman.
years,
Yeah.
4 or 5 years after.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay,
So,
that's what it was.
so my
Was there
support,
was there a catalyst, Annabelle? Was there like any event that happened that made you say, "That's it. I'm gone. I'm
yeah,
gone."
yeah. There was two things. I was going through an in vitro, probably the last one, and it was a really tough one. And he was supposed to come home from a trip in Puerto Rico, and he decided he was going to stay surfing. And I was really, really sick. And so at that moment, I said, surfing is more important than what's happening here in this house. One. Two, I didn't want to go to Peru with him. We had tickets because his whole family was there. I didn't want to be a hypocrite. This marriage was really shambles, and I didn't want to have to smile and pretend.
And pretend everything was fine.
He was very good at. He was very good at this. Oh my God, I was his princess and queen in front of everybody. So I didn't really want to go through that in front of his family. I didn't want to pretend. So I decided, listen, because of work, I started to lie a lot, which is not like me. Pretending a lot, lying a lot, hiding things to avoid a problem because you can never win at the discussion. It turns around and you are at fault. So you become very quiet at the end. You just don't want to argue anymore because it's such a toxic environment. Your life becomes hell. So you live a dual life in my case, because outside everything was perfect, inside.
Yeah.
And so anyways, I was very blessed to have the family I had. I was very blessed to have the job I had, the career I had, the friends I have, the brothers I have. All of that made it beautiful for me and made it possible. The other thing that happened, he did go on that trip to Peru. And of course, Benny lost his ball just on the punchline. All right, Benny. Oh, it's too far. Anyways, so he went to Peru, and it was interesting because when we would hang up, this is how well trained I was. He would say, we would say goodbye, and then I say I love you, or he would say I love you, and I say me too, and then he said nada más, like, don't you have anything? Ay, te quiero muchísimo, te amo, te lo te idolatro. Tonterías. But what was interesting too, Natalie, is that my brother and my father were at my house. And remember I said I had 5 in vitros, right? So it had been a long time that we had been together, 8 years, 5 years married, and we were going to tapas. And my father was dressed, ready to go, but Juan, my oldest brother, had been swimming in the pool the whole day. And he goes, Anna, do you think Javier has a shirt or something I can borrow? Because mine got wet in the pool. I said, yeah, he has a whole bag of shirts that he was going to take to Peru to give away, and he didn't. Javier had a lot of clothes. And so my brother went through it. And my brother is super dark. Those of you who know him, he's very dark skinned. He walked into the bedroom and he was yellow. He was white yellow. And I said, what's the matter? And he opened his hand and he said, Anna, I'm so sorry. And I said, what? What are you talking about? And he opened his hand, and I didn't even know what it was. He had a rubber in his hands. He had a condom.
Oh.
And I looked and I said, what is that? And he goes, what do you mean, what is that? And I said, well, that can't be Javier's because I can't have babies. So why would he have a condom? I'm still oblivious to what's happening. I'm still excusing him, always excusing him. That
Right.
can't be this. He must have held it for a friend. My brother's looking at me like,
Yeah, because it's the kind of thing that you hold for a friend. Okay.
yeah. So my brother is going, no, I don't think so. That was it wasn't the reason, but it was the last thing I needed to know.
It
You
was
know
the
what I mean?
catalyst. It was the
When
catalyst.
you asked me the catalyst, yeah, it wasn't the reason. I had already made up my mind that I was leaving him.
Right.
That it wasn't the reason that he was cheating or doing whatever he was doing.
Right.
Honestly, it
Wow.
was, yeah. So I'm sorry I've been so distracting here with this little one, but yeah. So that really helped because it was my dad embarrassing my father and my oldest brother. Can you imagine?
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not the macho types, both of them are very much about their wives and their family, so it wasn't like, oh, that's normal. So that did it for me. That really convinced me. It's like the universe has been sending you messages.
And
Yes, you're listening, but we're going to send you a really ugly one and you will listen.
And I think
That
that when somebody when it puts you on a spot like that, where you're like, this is embarrassing in front of my dad and in front of my brother, I cannot not leave him because now it's embarrassing to stay, right?
Yeah.
I think that's when the catalyst, that's when the change happens. So for me, it was when he screamed at one of my daughters, right?
I remember.
And she was doing my makeup. I mean, she wasn't doing anything bad. She was doing my makeup in front of his sister, who was watching so that she could learn to do makeup, right? And he came out and started screaming in Spanish, bloody murder. When is she leaving?
Yeah.
Why is nobody respecting me? Why can't I have a Sunday in my life, and in my own house
Peace. Yeah.
alone? And I'm like, dude, she's not doing anything. She's here. You're in your room. I mean, she's not bothering anyone. This is my house. I bought it. And my daughters have the right to be there. And she had only been there for like the night before because it was her birthday. And so when he started screaming at her, and my daughter didn't understand anything, but she understood screaming, and I was so embarrassed and so upset that this had happened, and I realized he screamed at me. He has screamed at his mom. He has screamed at his sister and at his niece.
Oh, screaming, yeah.
And no, I'm done. This is the catalyst. This is the straw that broke literally the camel's back. And I said, no, this is not happening. Obviously, you can scream at anybody, but you're not screaming at my daughters ever again. Not ever again. And that was when and he left, the door. I mean, I didn't say anything. Everybody was just like, and his mother came out of the room and she said, what happened to so-and-so? And we are like, no idea, no idea. And so then I went out with my daughter because I didn't want to stay at home. I didn't want to be there when he came back, frankly. And so I took her out to dinner and I wrote him a very long text message from the car with my daughter next to me, and I said, I'm leaving him. And my daughter said, Mom, don't do it because of me. If you're going to leave him, don't leave him because of me. And I said, no, Karina, I'm leaving because of me. But I'm leaving because I saw it happening to you. And I knew at that point that this could not happen ever again. And it has happened way too often, way too many times. And I cannot allow this to continue to happen. And so to me, that was really what did it, And I have a friend who left, the husband who was very abusive. And I always told her, you're going to do this when your boy decides to take up arms against your husband, when he's going to do something. Sure enough, the day that she came home and asked the son, why is there a bat under your bed? And he said, for the next time that dad throws you in a closet with my sister, I will break his back and his head. And she picked him up, and the girl and the cat and a few clothes, boom, left, never came back again.
Yeah.
So that's what tends to happen, is that people leave relationships when something happens and it clicks. It finally clicks that this is it, And I wish that we could tell more people to leave, start seeing the signs, start listening, to the universe that is really telling you things. You know, you just need to listen to it, right?
Right.
Listen to your own intuitions. If it feels wrong,
Sometimes it's
love,
hard though
love
because
doesn't hurt.
sometimes you're so overwhelmed that you don't even know what's hit you. A train. You don't. It's hard to see the signs. That's why I think meditation was my savior,
Yeah,
because it was the only time that I could try to quiet my mind. Try. Didn't get
yeah,
quiet, but from
exactly.
going like this, it did go more like this, where I could have a little bit of self
Yeah,
love, a little bit of self love, a little bit of
yeah, yeah.
this is right. This isn't as much as I love this man because I did.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
we both did. Yeah, endlessly, endlessly.
Endlessly.
Yeah,
It's really, I got to tell you, one of the lessons I learned, and some people are not going to like what I'm going to say, but this is my lesson. Unconditional love does not work. It works for your children.
yeah.
It does not work in a marriage because unless it's both ways, but I will tell you, I was unconditional love and all I got was abuse.
No, and
So,
exactly. And love doesn't hurt, Annabelle. If a person
good.
hurts you, the person doesn't love you unless they're hurting you in, unknowingly, unwittingly, But if you're doing it intentionally, then you cannot possibly be loving that person. You
No.
cannot hurt somebody intentionally that you love. But Anita is saying that just happened to me a couple of months ago.
Oh,
I'm
oh yeah.
so sorry to hear that, Mariana. But it happens. It happens. And that's why we have this channel. That's why we have the support groups, because we know how important it is. I think that meditation helped me. When I was in the relationship, meditation helped me. Because whenever he was screaming at me for an hour and he had the ability to scream at me for an hour, you know what I did all the time? I did what they taught me at Unity. You know, peace, be still. Peace, be still.
Mhm.
And that's all I did for an hour. I meditated, breathing, peace, exhaling, be still. And that's how I survived the hours and hours of scream, and the hours and hours of, and he would tell me, "Are you listening to me?" And I'm like, of course, I'm here, am I not? I'm listening to every word you're saying. No, I was in my brain. I was trying to not be there. I was in my brain. So yeah, meditation helps. Therapy, if you need therapy, if you are going through a relationship with somebody who's abusive, you need a therapy based on EMDR. We've said it ad nauseum here. I can refer you, if you speak Spanish, I can refer you to some very good therapists in Spain that can do this online. If you don't speak Spanish, then do try to find a therapist that is EMDR based, because that is the only therapy that works for victims of relationship abuse. Because we have PTSD, and PTSD is not curable with cognitive therapy or with Gestalt therapy or any other, behavioral anything. That doesn't work. It re-victimizes a victim. And so you need to find something that is going to work for you, and that is an EMDR-based therapy. But anyway, so I think that is, yeah, you're saying EMDR, yeah, they understand sociopaths
Yeah.
and psychopaths and narcissists.
Right.
They do understand, and they first treat the good times. So they break the toxic bond and they break the addiction by first treating the good portions of the life of that person. And once they do that, then they move on to treating the trauma,
Mm-hmm.
right? But first, they have to treat the good parts of it, because that is what keeps you in this abusive relationship going back and back and back again. So, yeah. But anyway, so thank you so much. I'm glad that you were able to join me. We're coming up to the end of the session, but I will have you over again. As you know, I will always invite you, because we can always do more and more lives with you, Annabelle.
Thanks.
And
It's
you
always a
proposed
pleasure.
you proposed a really cool one that was about self-care after you end the relationship, because we talked about what were the things that made us leave today, the abusive relationship, and what was the catalyst, and finally we said, I'm done, I'm out of here. And for every person is going to be a different catalyst, and some people take 5 years and some people are going to take 20 years. it's your timeline. It really is your timeline. Of course, the sooner you leave, the better you're going to be. The sooner you're going to be better. But we understand that everybody has their own timeline, and you have to go through what you have to go through, and it's your decision. Nobody's going to make it for you. And that is very empowering for you to know, is that no, we're not here to make the decision for you. We're here to be here with you and, and walk the path with you once you decide that you're going
Provide
to
you with
walk
the
the path.
tools, right? We have a lot of tools, a lot of knowledge, experience. I myself,
Yeah,
as part of leaving, and we'll have a program like Natalie said.
yeah,
I mean, I went to school, another master's in my collection for psychiatry,
exactly.
so
Yeah,
psychology, and I'm a Gestalt psychologist. I've got
yeah,
a master's in it, thanks to that marriage. Who
yeah.
knew, right? Who
For
knew?
you, exactly. And usually that's what happens is that when you leave a relationship like this, the majority of victims that leave a relationship like this end up, you're welcome, Marianita, end up helping other victims because we know how important it was. And I'm so happy, Annabelle, to now you walk into a restaurant and you hear two young women talking about love bombing, and you're like, oh my God, did I miss that class in high school? No, they don't teach this stuff in high school. But the girls now are tuning in, and they're talking about narcissism, and they're talking about love bombing, and about, soul
Gaslighting.
manipulation,
We
and
didn't even know what
about
gaslighting
and
was.
gaslighting. Yeah, who knew what that
Who
term
knew
was?
what that was? Yeah,
Exactly.
emotional blackmail book has a lot of the gaslighting, except without naming it that, because that has a reason why it was named gaslight and all that. But that it just helped me see it from a very objective point of view versus, whoa, it's
Yeah,
me or it's my fault. What could I do different?
yeah.
Nothing. You can't do
Nothing.
anything
You
different.
cannot.
Nothing.
No,
Nothing.
the truck basically ran you over while you were walking on the sidewalk.
And no matter what you do, it's never going to
It's never going
change.
to change.
No.
And once the narcissist picked you, once the psychopath picked you, that's it. You don't have a choice. You do not have a choice. You can, unless you've been through a relationship like this before, you have no idea what's going to hit you, and they will get you. And so it's unfortunate, but it's the reality. That's why it's so important to teach others to be vigilant about, these things and how they do it at the beginning, and what are the tactics that they use, and when to run, when. So
And I just have a few more words, and I know we have to close the session, but we're talking about our own experience. You may not be the one in this relationship, but your child could be, your brother, your sister could be.
yeah,
Don't ever ignore these symptoms. Don't ever think they're crazy as much as you may like their significant other, because Javier was very liked. Everybody liked him.
yeah.
He was bigger than life.
So was
Fernando,
mine.
whatever he was, everybody knows that these people have a great presence.
Yeah, yeah,
So don't ever ignore it. It could not be you, but it could be someone you love, and it happens more often than you know. The statistics, Natalie knows them better, but I will tell you, it's serious. It's important. It will destroy a person.
yeah,
And it took me 10 years to get back to being the Annabelle I used to be.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
10 years.
10 years.
Someone very strong. So,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, I
So,
don't. I wouldn't say that to be the person you used to be. No, you're now a person that is much better than the
thank you.
person that you used to be. Because we always are at the end of the road. We become better people than we used to be.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. And there's a
So
lot of good that comes out of this relationships, believe it or not.
it's a silver lining.
It
It's
really,
absolutely a
yeah,
silver lining.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I,
So,
I
but anyway,
really, my family, and I think in our culture, the Latin culture, boundaries are almost non-existent.
yeah,
We don't have boundaries. We really don't. Boundaries are really good in the American culture, in the Anglo culture, but the Latinos, we don't have boundaries. We don't.
no
So
such
this,
thing.
no such a thing. But I will tell you, if you ever enter this kind of relationship, you learn how to put boundaries, because you will go down very quick.
Oh yeah.
So lots of good lessons too from it. It's not all
Yeah,
bad.
there you go. It's not all bad. Oh, there were many, many blessings, including you. Had it not been
Thank
for
you.
him, I would
That's
not meet
right. We
you.
would not be friends if it wasn't for him.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a good thing. But anyway, thank you so much, Annabelle, for joining us. I'm so sorry that we had to take you out of your dinner.
No,
And
that's
but
okay.
do
That's okay.
go.
I messed up.
go back and enjoy your friends,
Thank
and
you.
thank them for me for lending you to me,
Thank
and yeah, we'll do this again, okay?
Yes,
And
and to
thank you
all
all
my
for
friends who
watching,
joined.
and yeah, and always, if you have somebody like you say that is in a relationship like that, and it can be a mom, it can be a boss, it can be, psychopaths come in all walks of life. So send them a video, send them to Genesis, send them to the YouTube channel that we now have.
Yes.
It's important that that you plant that seed. They may not do it right away. Bob, Gina says, love you, Annabelle.
Oh, my Gina. I love her.
So anyway, so always share this information with others that may need it, because we have been able to save many people by having their cousins and friends say, hey, I know there's women who are doing this. They sent them videos, and we've been able to coach them and guide them and support them, and they've left the relationship. So
Natalie, your mission is grandiose. It's beautiful.
well, we love it. We
Because,
truly
well, I
love it.
tell you, and a lot of people come out of this and say, I don't want to talk about this ever again.
Yeah.
Next, let me turn the page. That was then, this is now. You took all that. Like I said, it's not all bad, because look how many people you, Gloria,
Yeah.
Sandra, are helping today.
Right.
So thank you. On
And
behalf of all.
we're very happy to be able to do that. In healing others, you heal yourself. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you, everybody. And thanks, Natalie.
thank you,
Have
Lorraine.
a
Thanks for being
great
here with me. All right. Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.